I will start first by thanking the university, the leaders of the university and everybody who organized it so beautifully, and all the participants who listened to my talks continuously for the last 5 days. Not because you are listening to me, that would not make inch of difference to me, but because of your interest in something that will contribute to your own well-being, well-being of community and well-being of the society as a whole. So, I would like to thank all of you. I have been saying many times that much of the problem that we face in the world today is a clear indication of starvation of mind. Starvation of the mind means we have been feeding our body, and in many cases overfeeding it and people suffer from obesity and things like that. But in terms of the food for the mind, not much is given. Food for the mind is spirituality, a proper way of thinking, not necessarily any religious practice, but that part is completely neglected, and to some extent it is understandable, because we are kind of embodied beings who pay attention to only what is visible and not what is not visible. So, mind is something that is not visible clearly like an object, like a physical form. So, we tend to forget it, unfortunately. But as I said the other day, if you give little bit of thought, it will become very clear to all of us that at the end of the day, it is the mind that controls you, controls me, controls the community, controls the whole world. Many leaders of the world who engage in dirty, nasty politics, they do so because their mind is controlled by such ways of thinking. So, it is not easy to bring about a complete change within a short space of the time, but whether you like it or not, if a change has to be brought about for the betterment, health and peace and happiness of humanity, then it has to begin by transforming oneself, by changing one's attitude. There is no other shortcut. In the human history, we had many revolutions, French Revolution, Russian Revolution and many others, where one used force, as still we are doing that, unfortunately. And by using force, you try to silence the opponent and bring about a solution. So, these bloody revolutions never brought long lasting peace and happiness. We should be able to understand that by now. But again, unfortunately, human mind is very paradoxical. On the one hand, when it comes to good things, if you are asked to be mindful and be in the present, we are not be able to stay in the present. But when it comes to doing something bad, we are very much alive and present and active also. but then you will also see that our memory is very short. We forget, we hardly learn anything from history, what has happened in the past. On the one hand, we have this very bad habit of lingering in the past and not able to come out. At the same time, the lessons that you should learn from history, we are not able to learn. So, human mind is, I do not know how it functions, it is very paradoxical. But the good news is that if you train the mind, it can be trained. I recall very well that once we had this very famous Mind and Life conference in Dharamshala, where His Holiness and many other eminent scientists were present, and we had this meeting many times. Each meeting lasts for 5-6 days, and we had this many times in Dharamshala and elsewhere. So, during that time there was a lot of discussion about many things, and one of the important topics was who does the thinking, the brain or the mind. There was a lot of discussion. Scientists were talking primarily about function of the brain. Apart from brain, they don't talk about a non-physical entity called mind. Whereas in Buddhism, we talk very much about the mind, not only mind but grosser level of mind, subtle mind, very subtle mind, and so forth. So, after a lot of discussion, we had a tea break. Then during the tea break, I jokingly told some of my friends that I have a good news. Then they said, what is the good news? Then I said, the good news is I don't care who does the thinking. Whether the brain does the thinking, mind does the thinking, I don't care. We can always discuss, but that's not so important. What is important is if you make an effort, you can change. You can change the brain, you can change the mind. In the classical physics, they talk about hard wiring of the brain, and it is not possible to change the brain, especially when you grow older, then you suffer from dementia, old man's sickness of brain, and you can't change it. Now with the modern science, modern neuroscience, now they are talking about neuroplasticity. That means you can train the brain and make it plastic. If you repeatedly think, do exercise, then the mind, even if you physically grow older, the brain can still remain plastic, and thereby your mind remains sharp and clever. So, that is very much in harmony with the Buddhist concept. The Buddhist concept is that the mind is a non-physical, luminous, non-physical entity which is also cognitive. The more you train it, the more it can develop to a limitless quality. So, the latest finding of the science also goes very well with the Buddhist notion. So, my main point is, I am not trying to prove that Buddhism is especially important, but my point is that whether it is brain or the mind, it can be trained. But today when we talk about mental health, we are not talking about future lives and things like that, which will become very complex. This life is already here. You are there, I am here, we are all breathing, we are talking, listening to each other. So, this is not just a dream, it is there. So, therefore, whether there is a future life or not is a different question, but this life is very much here, and therefore, it is our task in hand to make this life happy and healthy. Happy and healthy means physically happy and healthy, mentally happy and healthy. But in terms of physical health, yes, number of steps have been taken, but with mental health not much has been done. But now gradually, for example, the British Psychological Society suggests a paradigm shift within the field of mental health. Paradigm shift means it is calling for an alternative conceptual approaches away from the current disease model. The current model of mental health is find out the disease, give the pills, give the medicine, more or less that is it. Now, they are more and more seeing the importance of alternative process of giving the mental health, and which is again very much there in the Buddhist psychology, Buddhist philosophy. For example, in our own Tibetan community in exile, Buddhism is the main determinant of mental health within the Tibetan community in exile, and in that mental health there are themes that elucidated Buddhist mental health insight, which included holistic health, understanding of mind and mental factors, proper fine tuning of mental attitude, personal responsibility, meditation, treating the root cause of disease, understanding human nature, and so forth. So, there is a very elaborate systematic process of mental health. In fact, the whole Buddhist teaching, the primary focus is, as I said earlier on the first day when I spoke about the meaning of Dharma, which means changing and transforming the mind. So, they transforming the mind means basically removing the illness and suffering of the mind and making the mind healthy. So, from that point of view, we can say Buddha has the healthiest mind, a mind which never suffers, a mind which is away from all kind of destructive negative emotions. So, we can also, provided if we practice, if we understand the importance of these and practice, we can, it is 100% sure that we can make progress and we can become mentally healthier and happier. As I said on many occasions, even during the last few days, that mental attitude is really the key thing in our life. Like, let me give you an example again. Let us take the example of marriage, for example. That is something that we all deal with and it is very easy to understand for all of us. Like, you marry somebody, young man or young woman. When you marry somebody, that young man and young woman, the young woman when marries that young man, she thinks that this man that I am going to marry is, if she is doing that not by force, unfortunately sometimes this is also happening, but through your choice, if you are marrying this young man, then you will think, I got the most handsome man. Similarly, that handsome man also thinks, I got the most beautiful woman. Now, if you really ask a further question saying, is this the most handsome young man in the world? Is this the most beautiful woman in the world? No, and it does not have to be. As I said, beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. If it is good for you, it is good. There is not much difference whether you drink from your ordinary cup or from a golden cup. What is important is what is the content, not the container, right. So, what I am trying to say is, you thought this is most handsome, this is most beautiful, this is your projection, and it does not have to be exactly like that for everybody, because everybody has their projection. So, from there you can, what I am trying to tell you is, I am trying to give you a clue that just as your attitude is different with that one particular object, similarly in every object, what you see, what perceive, what you hear, these are of course your ear hears, your eye sees, but what you see, what you hear is very much influenced by your thinking, your mental biases, prejudices, purity of the mind, so many things, right. So, therefore, from that what we should really understand is your mental projection plays a very, very important role. So, therefore, you should as much as possible try not to exaggerate anything, try not to denigrate anything, try to see things as they are. Now, that is not easy, you need to be very honest there. If you are able to do that, you will be able to solve many problems, many differences in the world. Otherwise, we keep on fighting based on my biases, your biases, and two biases, likes and dislikes clash each other, and then we confront and say this has to be completely white, and another one says this has to be completely black. Then there is no agreement. We fight over it, right. So, therefore, it is really important to see to accept the fact what you see is very much dependent upon what kind of glasses you are wearing. Okay. So, that means now with the so called experience of happiness, experience of suffering also, there is of course happiness, there is of course suffering, but it is also very much related to your mental thinking. Whether it is really happiness or suffering is very much related to your mental thinking. In the same situation, for example, if you are today in a mood to go for a picnic, okay, so right before reaching at the picnic spot, you will almost already singing and making preparations, and you are in a dancing and singing mood, right? Then with this you go with your group to that picnic spot, and you are all in a happy mood, and you all participate in bringing things, cooking things. There's so much kind of forthcoming there, right? And then suddenly imagine that if there is a downpour, a very heavy rain, or even hailstorm, right? So now actually you are in a very difficult situation. It is destroying everything that you have prepared, but still, because your mental attitude is to picnic, to sing and song, so therefore even in that hail and downpour, you will still sing, and some of you will be taking the photo, some of you will be singing. You don't care much about this external rain and hail and so forth, right? That's your mental attitude. Now on the other hand, you may be sitting in a very comfortable place, maybe in your 5-star hotel or wherever, very comfortable place, nice food, surrounded with nice people, but if your mental attitude is negative, unhappy, you are not able to enjoy anything. You don't like your friends to be with you, you don't like this television in front of you, you will find a fault in everything, right? So therefore mental attitude is extremely important wherever you go. And mind is one thing that will be there with you all the time. So unless you learn to be happy with yourself, unless you learn to be happy with your mind, even if you keep on having one friend after another friend, you will not be able to solve the problems, right? So that's one point that I wanted to mention. Globally, the focus on mental health has become increasingly important in recent years. Worldwide, mental health disorders exceed both HIV and cancer in terms of the numbers affected. This is according to the 1999, right? So mental health issue is a big problem in the whole world. Daniel Goleman, who has written this very popular book, Emotional Intelligence and so forth, who I know him personally very well, and he has written that I contend that the model of mental health one finds in Eastern psychologies and Tibetan Buddhism is the example par excellence. Really overreaches and extends in a very powerful way our own notion of mental health, and His Holiness calls it emotional hygiene. What intrigues me, he says, is that I was never told a thing about this in my graduate training or in any psychological course, although these psychologists, the Eastern psychologists, have been applied for more than 2000 years. That is the problem, you see. So now more and more people are showing interest in this, and this is important. As I write in the beginning, read that gradually there is a shift from the disease model, okay, to an alternative treatment, alternative lifestyle, in which your way of thinking is so nice, your lifestyle is so perfect that you don't even get sick. To first let yourself become sick and then go to a doctor is almost the last resort. And when you go to hospital, doctor nowadays, unfortunately, you know how many different types of doctors are there, how kind they are, how business minded they are. I am not blaming everybody. Like during the pandemic, we of course encountered many like amazing doctors and nurses, things like that, but apart from that, there are many whose mind is only to make money and don't care much about. In the Tibetan system of medicine, for example, the doctors in the early morning before they go to the clinic, in the early morning they all have to do meditation and prayer. and develop the motivation to benefit all people, all sick people who will come to see them. And the medicines, the pills, normally pills and some powders prepared, they are also not only prepared in accordance with the medical system, but also blessed by mantras. And many of these medicines, once the pills are prepared, they bring it to His Holiness's chamber and request His Holiness to bless it, like that. So there is a very rich tradition. And the most important thing is that the importance of compassion is very much there in the practice of Tibetan medicine. And there is even a saying that the good doctors should be such that before the sick person comes to the doctor should be there with the sick person. I mean, amazing idea. And the Buddha himself used to wash sick people and clean their toilet and things like that. So in all this, the primary thing that you need is genuine love and compassion. And when you visit a doctor, the doctor is very welcoming and welcomes you with a smiling face, and then really asks his question, showing genuine sense of responsibility, concern and about your well-being, almost like half of the illness is gone. Again, of course, it's your mental attitude, and you are sick, you are not well, and then when you come into contact with somebody who cheers you up, who shows real concern, you already feel much better. Whereas when you sit next to the doctor hardly pays any attention, and then suddenly quickly does some analysis, and then quickly gives you piles of tablets and medicines. You are not so sure, yes, I had to come to this doctor, but I am not sure whether he checked properly, So with this doubt, even when you take the medicine, it is not very helpful, very curative. So with this, most of us are not doctors, but in a way we can play the role of a doctor. Like Buddha, he was not a doctor in the sense of giving medicine all the time. Of course, he is an expert in everything. So in our case also, whether you are a teacher or a student or a friend, we should in one sense think like a doctor, and try to treat others' mental unhappiness, mental depression, mental illness with friendly touch. So sometimes for some people, there are many people who suffer from loneliness, sickness, nobody to talk to. So even if you talk nicely to somebody, it really brings a big change in the mind of that person. Okay. So the World Health Organization defines mental health as mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential. Realizes his or her own potential and can cope with the normal stresses of life, and can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. So if you have that, then your mental health is good. That means you should be able to face challenges, difficulties, illnesses and sickness. Challenges will come, difficulty will come, sicknesses will come, but with these problems you should not get discouraged. You should be able to see it in a proper perspective. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the pathway toward mental health is a process of cutting through materialism to uncover a clear, egoless, awakened state of mind. It is rather like taking a malfunctioning computer with a software problem, lubricating it, warehousing it, adding new hardware components and so forth, all without any software analysis and modification, will do no good, right? So we have a software and hardware. Hardware is the brain. From Buddhist perspective, hardware is the brain, which we can operate, which we can touch. But there is an invisible energy called mind, which is exactly like the software. So, in today's world, even the scientists, they talk about brain and not about the mind. They are only talking about the hardware and not talking about the software. Globally also speaking, people are now showing more and more enthusiasm in hard power and not soft power. That is the problem. I have been all along encouraging my Indian friends to see the significance of the soft power, the power of culture, which includes power of training the mind, transforming the mind. So, therefore, in order to have that proper mental health, to make a long story short, you need to identify the negative emotions from the positive emotions, because your goal is that you want long lasting happiness, and to get that long lasting happiness, you need to find those that obstructs achieving that long lasting happiness, which is none other than the negative emotions. So, you need to identify all the negative emotions that obstructs your path to happiness. And it is not enough to identify and reduce the negative emotions, you also need to empower and strengthen the positive emotions like loving kindness, compassion, wisdom, strength, forgiveness, patience, and so forth. So, that way it is 100% sure that you will be a happier person. Just do that. Then on top of that, there are many things to do. For example, these days there is a lot of talk about the importance of exercise for your brain also, for your body also. So, they are here in this case you need to know few facts. It is now scientifically proved that just moving your body frequently keeps your brain sharp, and especially in today's world. In most of the cases, we work in offices and things like that. So, we are most of the time we are sitting on the chair. So, now chairs are called killer chairs. Killer chairs. If you continue to sit for long time, you have no idea how much damage is done to your body, especially if the chair is of not the right posture and size, things like that. That is something that you can start doing from tomorrow onwards. Okay, that I myself personally know the benefit of that. For example, if you have been sitting there reading something, feeling sleepy, lazy, it means things are not working well. So, immediately you get up, take few steps, stretch your arms, things will immediately change. Then when you have more time, then do some exercises. Exercise also gradually, right in the beginning, don't stretch too much, things like that. Okay. So, in one study it is said there are compelling evidences showing exercise improves your memory and cognition. In one study it is said just 20 minutes of leg strength exercises enhanced long term memory by about 10%. Now the question is, it will happen, but you have to do it. And how many of us are willing to do that? We are unfortunately lazy people. You get very excited and want to do that exercise from tomorrow, then you do it for 2-3 days, then nothing. So that is the problem. Then not only exercise, you need to, with exercise you need to change your food habit also. I once read a story of somebody who really wanted to improve his health. So, he used to go to the gym and spend 2 hours doing very rigorous exercise, sweating all the way, things like that. Then after the exercise he would say, now I worked so hard, I deserve a chocolate. then he would again start eating chocolate, which will again destroy what he has gained. So, that is the thing. So, you need to, when it comes to improving the health, it has to be holistic from all angles, in terms of your sleep, in terms of your food, in terms of your exercise, in terms of your mental peace, and so many things. So, exercise significantly slows the rate of the brain aging, especially if you are over 60, then you need to do a lot of this kind of exercise not to let your brain age. Okay. According to a recent study published in the journal Neurology, physical activity can slow brain aging by as much as 10 years. Again, you get that if you do it. If you don't do it, you will not get it. Okay. So there are many things, but I'll just mention few things. Exercise also promotes psychological health and good mood. You see, if you just keep on sitting at one place, then you might get, your mind might get drag, and you might, you may not have a good mood. But when you do exercise, then your mood also improves. Memory and cognition are not the only benefits associated with physical fitness. Exercise also dispels depression. In today's world, there are many people who get depressed, especially in the so-called more developed countries. The less developed countries, it's just amazing to see things. If you go to very poor villages, there are not many people suffering from depression. They are suffering from, of course, malnutrition, things like that, but not so much from depression, because they are always in touch with each other. They are happy with small things. But as our affluence grows, then we want more and more. We are not satisfied with everything. We don't talk to oneself. We don't talk to other people, And then in the so-called developed countries, there is this notion of privacy, Don't intrude in the privacy of others. So everybody, I visited many countries, and once I had this experience of, the two neighbors. Two neighbors means actually there was just a door between the two, nothing. But they have been living like this for a long, long time, but never saw each other. And they saw each other only when I was there with a Tibetan doctor. Then they both had to come there. And only at that time they saw each other. And then there are other cases where the next door neighbor died, and even after 3-4 days, nobody coming there to help that person, deceased person, you see, things like this. So this is a little bit too much. Okay. So in many cases, these exercises, help remove depression more effectively than antidepressant. Unfortunately, these days, whenever you have little bit problem, we just take a mouthful of tablets, medicines, vitamin A, B, C, D, so many things are there, because people are selling medicine, you see. So it has become a profession. It's a very good way of earning money. And we have this problem during the COVID also, how many of these vaccines are okay. So things like that. Okay. Because one of the ways exercise promotes mental health is by normalizing insulin resistance and boosting natural feel good hormones. There are hormones and neurotransmitters associated with mood control, including endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, glutamate, and GABA. So there are many things like that. Okay. And their findings suggest is that exercising your muscles actually help rid your body of stress chemicals that promote depression. Other research has also found clear links between inactivity and depression. Women who sat for more than 7 hours a day were found to have a 47% higher risk of depression than women who sat for 4 hours or less per day. These are scientific findings. Okay. Those who did not participate in any physical activity at all had a 99% higher risk of developing depression than women who exercised. Creativity also gets a boost from physical activity. According to a Stanford University researchers, a brisk walk can increase creativity by up to 60%. So walking is a very good exercise. Okay. So keep up your physical activity. There's one thing that I wanted to show. So the suggestion is you should exercise vigorously for an hour during the week, or at least try to walk 7,000 steps a day or more each day. So there are certain counts. Nowadays all your mobiles can do that counting. So do some walking, or as I already mentioned, or at least stand up. A stand-up desk is a great option if you have an office job. Having an active lifestyle is really an investment. We talk so much about making money, becoming famous, but with all this endeavor, if your health is not good, health is lost, everything is lost, as we say. Health is wealth, as we say, right? So the most important thing for your family, for yourself, I have always been telling people, if you are taking good care of yourself, you are actually taking care of your family. So helping others is helping yourself, is helping others. Helping others is helping yourself. Taking care of others is taking care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is taking care of others. So if you really love somebody, you need to take care of yourself. There is no point saying I love this, that, mother, father, and then you don't take care of your health. That means you really don't care about, because if your health is not good, that will create anxiety and unhappiness in the mind of your people who love you. So taking care of oneself is very, very important in any great work. Okay. Then the second point I wanted to quickly touch is how our emotion affect our health. I am not going into detail because I already spoke about it. Here what is important is to find the difference between the positive and negative emotion and try to remove the negative emotion, or at least try to reduce the negative emotion. And for doing that, you should study each of the negative emotions like anger, jealousy, hatred, and things like that. For example, if regarding jealousy, if you are jealous of your neighbors, if your neighbor bought a car and therefore you are jealous, you will not get the car. It will only torment your mind. So all these negative emotions are there to torture you, not to benefit you at all. Okay. So in each and every hour and day, you experience so many types of emotions. If you can envision a chart of the ups and downs of the stock market on a wild and volatile day, you will have an idea of the kind of signals we create in our hearts in times of such emotions. There is so much upheaval of emotions, and which is not good. Too much ups and downs is not good. Try to lead a stable life. If you hear good news, there is every reason you should be happy, but don't get too excited, because bad news is waiting. If you get bad news, naturally you will feel sad, but don't get too discouraged, don't get deflated, don't get completely kind of losing your hope. No, because good news is also waiting. So whatever come, as I said the other day, whatever may come in my life, I will never make my mind unhappy. That should be there, right? So once you learn this strategy of maintaining the calmness and stability of your mind, then even if there is a big problem, for the time being you may get discouraged and so forth, but very quickly it will come back to its normal state and you will be able to remain healthy. So for that you need constant training. For example, in the case of food, it is not enough that we take lunch, dinner for one day and then skip 3-4 days. No, we have to eat every day. So similarly, for your mental health, spiritual practice also, it is important to do that spiritual practice every day. It is not that you do spiritual practice for 1 month and then boom, there is endless mental happiness and peace. No, that will not be there. So therefore you need to do it regularly, constantly. The more and more do it, the more and more your health will improve, your mind will become stronger and more resilient and so forth. Okay. So occasionally it is important to listen to yourself, because in each moment of every day a conversation is taking place inside us. that is one of the most vital we will ever find ourselves engaged in. It is the silent, often subconscious and never-ending conversation of emotion-based signals between the heart and the brain. There is a communication going on, right? So according to the signals that the brain gets, it will respond positively and negatively. So therefore, try your best to give good news, not the bad news. Okay. The another important point where you should pay attention is to realize that we are living in a world of stress. In our modern world of information overload, speed dating, multiple consecutive double cappuccinos and the often hard sense that life is speeding up, it is inevitable that our bodies can feel that we are in a constant state of never ending stress. So this never ending stress is actually your creation. It's your creation. As I said the other day, in modern world everybody thinks it is important to be busy, and I have been telling people it is not important to be busy. What is important is what are you busy about. So there should be plenty of opportunity for you to smile, to relax, to do friendly chatting, not necessarily always engaging in political discussion, profound philosophical discussion. That is not necessary all the time. What is important is you should remain like a normal human being, where you can smile, where you can laugh, where you can happy with small things. Don't pretend that you are somebody special and always need to talk about big things, invisible forces and things like that. No, that should not be there. Behave like a human being. There is a Tibetan saying which says, even if your realization is like that of a god, your way of life should be like any other ordinary human being. Don't pretend that you are very special. Laugh, cry, whatever. Be normal, like the small kids, as I said. Okay. Then another important that is repeatedly taught these days is the art of breathing. Art of breathing, that also is very much dependent on our lifestyle. In Buddhism we teach this breathing meditation, right? So art of breathing means you need to breathe. If your life is not so stressed, if you are not exceptionally busy, then naturally you will be able to breathe properly. But if you are running and stressed, unhappy, for example, if you are angry, then you watch your breath. When you are angry, then you would say, the last time also he said me this, today also he told me this. See, you already cannot breathe. So when these negative emotions like anger comes, you become abnormal. There is a very interesting story of story or thing said by Buddha. When Buddha was asked by somebody saying that when two people fight, why they need to shout at the top of their voice? Like when two people are fighting, they are actually very close to each other, right? Still they have to shout at the top of their voice, you shameless beggar. Something like that. You have to shout at the top of the voice. You are sitting very close to each other. There is no need to shout. You can say it quietly. Can you fight with somebody quietly? Last time also you said like this, huh? No, you shout at the top of your. Why? This was asked to Buddha. Why? The Buddha said, because mentally you have already distanced yourself from that person. Physically, yes, physical closeness is not closeness. We have a saying in Tibetan that the blessing of a Lama is greater from a distance. When you have that faith, you may be living in America and His Holiness Dalai Lama is in Dharamshala, but he is in your heart, so distance doesn't really count. But when you are mentally don't have that feeling of nearness and closeness, then when you fight, you have to shout at the top of your voice. Now take example of another person. One may be sitting at the far end of that room, that big room, and one this room. And then just by seeing and with the style of eye and little movement of hand, you are communicating so nicely to each other. Physically very far away. Right? So my main point is, when you develop these negative emotions, you lose your real human nature. So watch your breathing. Normally when we are stressed and running, then we breathe only from here up. Breathe right from the abdomen. Your whole body should be involved in breathing. Take a long breath in, long breath out, like that. Right? Mindful breathing can reduce stress also, increase feelings of goodwill, and keep us present in the moment. One very important teaching that is repeatedly taught in Buddhism is to remain in the moment. Don't carry it away what has happened in the past and what is going to come in the future. Many of us suffer because we live in the past. Somebody did something wrong to me. You continuously think about it, talk about it. You are living in the past. Somebody very cleverly said that there are two days that you can't do anything: yesterday and tomorrow. Because yesterday is gone, tomorrow is yet to come. You can't do anything with these 2 days. So like that, past is gone. The only thing you can do is, if you can learn some lesson, learn about that. Otherwise, don't relive in the past. It's gone. Again, I'll tell you another story. When Buddha was somewhere with his followers, a gentleman came extremely angry, rushing straight to the Buddha and spat on his face. Very angry. Buddha just looked at him, did not say anything. And when his followers pushed that gentleman away, and then said to the Buddha, your patience is a little bit too much. This man, without any reason, and came and spat on your face, and you are still sitting there calm and peaceful. How come? The Buddha said, I am not annoyed with that person, I am annoyed with you people, because you have been practicing with me, so you should be patient. Whereas this person, you don't know, I don't know, somebody might have told many bad things about me, because of which he must have become angry. That's why I didn't do anything. And moreover, his anger will consume him, not me. And it is said that this man who spat on the face of the Buddha could not sleep the whole night by seeing that very calm reaction of the Buddha. The next morning, the first thing that he did was quickly came to the Buddha, fell at his feet and asked for his forgiveness. So my main point is that these negative emotions they are only there to consume you, to destroy you, to make you blind. They are not needed. So the takeaway is, say goodbye to the negative emotions. Say enough is enough. It was in the past that you anger destroyed me, destroyed my family, brought unhappiness in the family. Your jealousy, your attachment, at that time I had no knowledge, no awareness, so you fooled me. Now I have some awareness, I have some knowledge, so gone are the days. Now I will not let you come in. That's what you need to say. Reduce. If you do that, you are a good practitioner. Whichever religion you belong to, doesn't make any difference. Okay. So in the Indian tradition, we have all this pranayama, traditional yogic practice of slowing, extending, observing your breath, all these things, okay, meditation and dhyana, all these things are there. That's one thing. And another point about the role of meditation in mental health. Science is finally able to record the amazing effects of meditation. Meditation influences the body in unexpected ways. Experienced meditators, for instance, can speed or slow their metabolism by more than 60% and raise their body temperature by as much as 8 degrees centigrade. Even a little training in meditation can make people calmer, less stressed and more relaxed. As little as 20 minutes a day of meditation leads to physical changes such as reduced blood pressure, lower heart rate, deeper and calmer breathing. I have that experience myself to some extent. At one point, when I went to check in hospital, they said, "Oh, Geshe, your blood pressure is at the border, not bad, but maybe good to take some medicine." But yes, I took some medicine. Then later on, I didn't take any medicine. I changed my food habit a little bit, and my mind normally very calm, very peaceful. So it is now almost a year. I had no difficulty with those things. So what I am saying is, this is because of calmness of the mind, makes a huge difference. Okay. Then many people, another issue that I want to talk quickly is how to heal your disconnect, meaning that we live in lonely times. The elderly are lonely, the teens are lonely, people are lonely in cities, in rural areas, so much so that it is now considered public health issue. According to Harvard Business Review last year, this feeling of loneliness is declared as the world's declared that the world is suffering from an epidemic of loneliness. So that feeling of loneliness is there because you, as I said earlier, you don't know how to live alone because you don't have these internal mental qualities, and also don't know how to live with others because you don't have love and compassion. So you should be good in at least one of these two things if you want to get rid of loneliness. Loneliness is not equal to solitude. People who intentionally isolate themselves, remain in solitude, do meditation practice, they never suffer from loneliness. But there are people who suffer from loneliness who may be living in a big city of 20 million people, but there is one guy who is suffering from loneliness. So it's not so, the loneliness is not due to having no company or no people around. There are 20 million people around, but because of this disconnect, mental disconnect, you suffer from loneliness. Then we have like Tibetan meditators who isolate themselves intentionally for their practice and remain in high mountain for 20-30 years. They never suffer from loneliness because in their mind they always think about other people, develop love, compassion and so forth. So therefore, to heal that disconnect, practice small talk. Try to talk to people when you do some shopping. At least say hello to the cashier and think small talking. Number one. Number two, get comfortable with your own company. As I said, you should learn to live with yourself. At the end of the day, you need to be happy with yourself. Then put time into your friendship. That means you can't make friendship with anybody just by saying hello. You need to put some time, spend some time with them, and then also help each other. Then gradually you become friends. So therefore, it's an incremental process, and proximity and repetition is the key to get real friends. And then also find out the lonely part inside of yourself. Why? What is the reason why you are feeling lonely? Which part of your body feeling that loneliness? So you need to do this in two ways. One is whether it's due to the outside world or it is due to your internal situation. So you find the reason and heal that and understand your loneliness. Okay. And then reach out to family. Another important thing is, empty mind is the devil's workshop, as we say. So you become lonely, you suffer from stress because you are not doing only thinking, empty thinking. So therefore, the way to solve many of these problems is start writing stories. It's very healing, scientifically proved that it's very healing to do something creative, some writing and things like that. Write about the history of your family, from which area they came from. It's a very interesting thing, not only healing for yourself, but that way you will also remain in touch with your ancestors, and more importantly, embrace who you are. Don't think that you are inferior to anybody. Appreciate, embrace yourself. Okay. So I think my time is gone. So the good thing is, now gradually people are like scholars like Martin Seligman, who wrote many books. One book that he wrote is called Authentic Happiness, meaning how to find authentic happiness. There he talks about the positive psychology. That means not only talk about the negative emotions, but also talk about the healing parts of psychology, right? So it is not enough to try to reduce the negative part, but also empower yourself with the positive emotions. So this must be done. Okay. So therefore, in short, you need to improve your knowledge insight for overcoming any challenges, and patience and persistence, and certain negative things you need to avoid, you need to remove and change your lifestyle. Okay. So and as somebody said, there is no love of life without despair of life. That means challenges and sufferings and problems, happiness, they will all come together, but take the best out of every situation and transform misfortune into the path. That means the so-called tragedy, the so-called challenge, the so-called misfortune, if you are able to handle it and see it in its right perspective, you will be able to transform it and make good use of it. Even poison can be used as a medicine when you know how to do it. Okay. Thank you.